right? So think about this. If AI is that kind of race, where more or less there is a finish line for basically how powerful these models can be at the end of the day, then even if, China is theoretically 6 months behind us now, at some point, they're going to be at the finish line just like we are. So they're going to have AI that's more dangerous than 20 nuclear weapons. And they're going to be distributing that to the world while we clutch our pearls and demand more rules and regulations. Again, really think about this for a second, right? OpenAI is excited about what they call reverse federalism. They want California to crack down on frontier AI labs to add more bureaucracy and such. We've heard from Dario. Dario just goes on infinitum about how all these AI models, these AI companies should be kneecapped because they're so dangerous. And so think about that, right? The American AI stack, the leaders of the American AI stack are demanding bureaucratic morass at the exact same time the Chinese AI stack is going at, 500 miles an hour. Explain to me how we win. Explain to me how we win this particular race.
美国人工智能行业的领头人物，一边把中国描述成即将拥有比20枚核武器还危险的人工智能威胁，一边又忙着呼吁加州加强监管、增加官僚程序，甚至主动给自己的产业绑上更多绳索。这样的竞争策略听起来确实相当耐人寻味，对手在全速前进，自己却忙着研究怎么让运动员跑得更慢。大家好，这里是华人视角频道。本期我们就来看看中国人工智能究竟是不是还停留在落后6个月的位置，以及这场竞赛到底有没有所谓的终点线。镜头中提到的 Z.AI 已经推出了接近顶尖水平的开源模型，在网络安全防御测试中表现亮眼，同时还尝试建立更灵活的安全护栏。另一边，美国公司却在闭源、限制访问和层层审批之间不断加码。更值得关注的是，当模型能力逐渐接近之后，真正决定胜负的可能不再只是参数规模，而是谁能让更多人使用，谁能把安全机制做得既有效又不过度。美国会不会重演制造业流失的旧故事？中国模式又能否把开放与安全同时做好？接下来我们一起拆解这场人工智能竞赛背后的规则、速度与较量。
I think this is an interesting story because Sam Altman has come out and basically said that American labs' push to more and more powerful AI models is fundamentally dangerous, and that the frontier AI labs in the United States should slow down, and that they really need more bureaucratic oversight. I think what is curious about Sam Altman and OpenAI coming out and espousing all of this is the fact that Chinaman don't care. Chinaman's like, you want to wrap your artificial intelligence into a hell of a lot of bureaucracy and red tape and government overreach and all of that kind of thing? That sounds wonderful for you. For you, right? This must be amazing to be in China right now. And if you think you're running a race, to look over and watch your competitors basically kneecap each other as you're trotting along, right? You think about that, you go out for a run in one of the races, and you're like, I don't know if I feel like I could win today. I don't know if I feel like if I have enough energy and power to really come in first. And so you're running the race and you're trying to do your best, but you don't really know how it's going to work out. And then you look behind you and basically you see your competitors taking lead pipes, bashing each other in the kneecaps, and then you're like, oh, I guess I might win this race after all. To basically be able to get the job done. I think about this with filters back in the day. So email, back when email was pretty cool and new and cool in the corporate world, one of the problems you had was filtering so that people didn't say inappropriate things in their emails. And so initially, I mean, they were really blunt tools. Like it was literally, right? It was basically regex for if you see anything that looks like a swear word, if you see anything that looks like a racial epithet, whatever, right? That basically that got flagged. And you ran into weird issues like Beaver, right? If you're like, hey, I need the installer to go to Beaver Dam Road, right? pretty innocuous, pretty normal. Here's the thing, there can be some sexual connotation to beaver. And this whole beaver thing was real. I was there for the beaver disaster. It was like 2002. Anyway, oh, it's so fucking bad. Anyways, yeah. So you put this explicit content filter on emails and messaging or whatever else, and all of a sudden, all of your customers who happen to live on Beaver Dam Road are never going to hear from your company again because things get flagged. That was a problem. We improved systems. Now it shouldn't be nearly so bad. I think one of the interesting things when we think about guardrails in the AI world is I think we're at the beaver phase of these guardrails where they're putting it in order to try to solve problems, prevent things from happening, but they are too blunt of tools. It would be kind of curious to see if China moves forward. Could they actually create more effective guardrail systems to actually block what theoretically should be blocked and allow what theoretically should be allowed? And would that be a product differentiator, right? Look, don't just go to the Chinese models because they're free or open source or whatever else. Go to them because they're guardrails. Do what the hell the guardrails are supposed to do. Kind of an interesting thing to consider there. Let's see here. Z.ai framed the launch as a challenge to the restricted access model represented by Mythos. It argued that advanced cyber defense tools should be available to developers of open source software and smaller security teams rather than being controlled by a limited number of closed model providers. And that's going to be one of the big arguments going on between, the Chinese AI stack and the American AI stack, right? The American AI stack, it's all about, again, this is so fucked up. The American AI stack is all about authority. Your betters understand the world more than you do. Therefore, they will allow you to do certain things with the technology. Right? And this is, you listen to Dario, you listen to Sam, you listen to the Trump administration, right? Your betters know best. You will be granted access to these things. And if we hear any smartness out of your mouth, we can pull everything back. AI is not a right. Again, and think about this in the modern world of the United States, in the modern political context in the United States. We are informed that artificial intelligence is the future. Whoever controls artificial intelligence controls the future. And then basically we were told with the rules and regulations, the laws and everything else is that artificial intelligence isn't a right. Right? So basically, the future, your children's futures, your family's futures in the United States, it's not a right. If you do things the way the authority figures think is appropriate, you will be granted the ability to move into the future. If any of them dislike what you're doing, your ability to move into the future, that access is shut off. That is literally the American way in 2026. And what's hilarious is the Chinese way in 2026 is everybody should have access to this tool. This is an incredibly powerful tool that can change a lot of people's lives and make the world better. And basically, access to this tool should be as widely distributed as possible. God. Oh, I hate this time period so much. It said it would begin a, quote, open source shield initiative to audit select open source projects, provide model access for defensive work, and add code auditing functions to its Z code programming product. Quote, in this spirit, Z.ai appears to be proposing a kind of Project Glasswing with Chinese characteristics that sees openness as an asset rather than a drawback. The American CEOs are trying to shut down openness. The Chinese CEOs are the ones arguing for openness, said Wagner, referring to the consortium of Western companies with access to Mythos. So yes, this is what is going on now. It does appear that the Chinese models are getting ever closer to being Mythos level, more dangerous than 20 nuclear bombs. And they are going for openness. They are going for wide distribution. They are going for guardrails where they exist to a point that actually makes sense versus Americans' closed source model of you will be told how you should use AI. And yeah, it'll be curious where this goes in the future. I do also think what's interesting, one of the things I've been arguing for a while is I think these LLMs are basically getting to the end of their product development. Not fully their end. I think, every year there'll be a 5% improvement or whatever else. But basically the major gains for these large models, I think we're kind of coming to an end. And so one of the interesting things too, is you think about this with China competing with the United States, is it if this is a race that goes infinitum, it has no end, then if China is always 6 months behind the United States, then they're going to quote unquote always be 6 months behind the United States. What's interesting though is that if this race basically has an end, or it more or less has an end, then they might be 6 months behind us now, but when we get to that end, or when we have to slow down, they're going to be getting closer and closer and closer and closer and closer and closer naturally. At some point, they're going to go from 6 months behind us, basically, to being where we are. Because again, if there is an end to the race, right? If there's an end to the race, right? At a certain point, the winner of the race and the loser of the race are both at the finish line because there's an end. Right? So think about this. If AI is that kind of race where more or less there is a finish line for basically how powerful these models can be at the end of the day, then even if, China is theoretically 6 months behind us now, at some point, they're going to be at the finish line just like we are. So they're going to have AI that's more dangerous than 20 nuclear weapons. And they're going to be distributing that to the world while we clutch our pearls and demand more rules and regulations. Again, really think about this for a second, right? OpenAI is excited about what they call reverse federalism. They want California to crack down on frontier AI labs to add more bureaucracy and such. We've heard from Dario. Dario just goes on infinitum about how all these AI models, these AI companies should be kneecapped because they're so dangerous. And so think about that, right? The American AI stack, the leaders of the American AI stack are demanding bureaucratic morass at the exact same time the Chinese AI stack is going at, 500 miles an hour. Explain to me how we win. Explain to me how we win this particular race.
这期内容真正值得我们停下来思考的，并不只是某一家中国公司发布了什么模型，也不只是某一个美国实验室的产品领先了多少。更深层的问题是，当人工智能逐渐成为决定国家竞争力、产业效率，甚至个人未来机会的基础设施之后，我们究竟应该用什么方式来管理它、使用它，又应该把多大的权力交给那些掌握模型和规则的人？视频中反复出现的那个比喻其实非常形象。假设这是一场人工智能竞赛，一方正在努力向前奔跑，另一方却不断争论规则，互相限制，甚至把大量时间花在给自己增加负重上。那么哪怕后者曾经拥有领先优势，也可能因为不断放慢脚步，给竞争对手留下追赶的空间。中国模型目前是否已经在所有方面超过美国？这个结论当然不能轻易下定论，不同测试、不同任务、不同数据都会带来不同结果。但可以确认的是，差距正在缩小，追赶速度正在加快，而美国过去那种可以长期保持绝对领先的假设已经越来越难以维持。尤其值得注意的是，竞争的焦点已经不再只是模型参数、训练规模和排行榜名次，真正影响人工智能能否落地的，可能还包括成本、算力、开发工具、应用生态、开放程度以及最重要的安全机制。一个模型即使能力很强，如果它因为过于僵硬的限制，无法完成合法的防御任务，无法帮助企业修复漏洞，无法支持研究人员进行授权测试，那么它在现实世界中的价值就可能被大幅削弱。这也引出了视频中的核心矛盾：安全护栏究竟应该保护谁，又应该保护到什么程度？ 如果没有任何限制，强大的模型当然可能被用于诈骗、攻击、窃取数据，甚至制造更严重的社会风险。但如果安全机制只会机械地识别几个敏感词，只要任务看起来有一点危险，就直接拒绝回答，那么它保护的可能不是安全，而是自身免责。真正成熟的安全系统不应该只会说不可以，而应该能够理解上下文，区分恶意攻击和合法防御，知道什么时候必须阻止，什么时候可以在验证身份、限定范围、记录过程的前提下提供帮助。从这个角度看，安全护栏本身也正在成为一种产品能力。未来用户选择模型，可能不只是看它能不能写代码、生成文字、分析数据，还要看它能不能在复杂场景中做出准确判断。该拒绝的时候拒绝，该协助的时候协助，既不放任风险，也不因为害怕风险而让工具失去实用价值。谁能把这件事做好，谁就可能在下一阶段的竞争中建立真正的优势。视频还把人工智能监管和制造业外迁放在一起比较，这个提醒同样值得重视。环境保护、劳动权益、土地规划和产业安全本身并不是错误，问题在于，如果一个国家不断增加合规成本，却没有同步提高审批效率、基础设施和产业支持，企业就会寻找更便宜、更快速的生产地点。最后，原本希望通过规则改善社会的政策，可能反而把工厂、技术和就业机会推向其他国家。人工智能领域也可能遇到类似困境。监管的目标应该是降低真实风险，而不是把所有前沿实验室拖入无法运转的程序之中。规则应该明确、透明、可执行，能够针对具体危害进行约束，而不是用笼统的禁令替代判断。更不能因为少数机构掌握技术，就让他们同时掌握解释风险、制定标准，决定谁有资格使用技术的全部权利。当然，开放也绝不等于没有责任。开源模型和开放权中能够让更多开发者、研究机构和小型团队获得先进工具，也有助于安全人员发现问题、修复漏洞、推动创新。但开放之后，风险也可能更容易扩散。因此，真正有价值的开放，应当配合身份验证、权限分级、审计机制、风险评估和持续监测。只有把开放与责任结合起来，才不是简单的把危险交给所有人，而是让更多人有机会参与建设和监督。这里还存在一个经常被忽略的问题，那就是人工智能到底是不是一种权利？我们当然不能把任何技术都简单定义成天然权利，但如果人工智能将深刻影响教育、就业、医疗、商业和信息获取，那么它的使用资格就不能只由少数企业高层或行政机构随意界定。技术可以有边界，使用可以有条件，风险可以被监管，但规则必须接受公众讨论，也必须允许申诉和监督。否则，所谓通往未来的门就可能变成一张只对特定人群开放的许可证。至于人工智能竞赛是否存在终点，目前没人能够给出确定答案。模型能力或许仍会持续提升，但每一次提升的成本也可能越来越高。真正决定胜负的，可能逐渐从单纯追求更大模型，转向更高效的推理、更可靠的工具调用、更好的数据质量以及更成熟的应用体系。如果前沿能力最终进入相对稳定的阶段，那么现在领先几个月的一方，并不意味着能够永远领先。只要技术可以复制，知识可以传播，追赶者就有机会在终点附近实现接近，甚至在某些应用领域反超。所以这期内容留给我们的启示，不是简单的站在哪个国家一边，也不是看到开源就盲目乐观，看到监管就一味反对。我们更应该问几个具体问题：规则是否真的降低了风险？安全机制是否误伤了正常使用？先进技术是否能够被更多普通人和小型团队获得？企业是否有动力持续创新？当不同国家采取不同路线时，谁的制度能够同时保住安全、效率和开放性？这些问题可能比某一次模型发布的新闻更值得长期关注。人工智能的未来，最终不会只由一家公司、一位企业家或者一届政府决定，它会由技术人员、监管者、企业、开发者以及每一个使用者共同塑造。我们既不能忽视强大模型带来的真实危险，也不能因为恐惧就把改变生活的工具锁在少数人的手里。真正成熟的社会应该在安全与自由、监管与创新、开放与责任之间找到可以不断调整的平衡。你怎么看待美国加强监管与中国推动开放之间的这场竞争？你认为安全护栏会成为人工智能产品的核心优势，还是会变成限制创新的沉重负担？欢迎把你的判断和担忧写在留言区。 也欢迎点赞订阅，继续收看更多精彩视频。